Cool. We are live, and I'm just going to share my screen and get this party started. My screen's coming through okay, Allie?
Looks good.
All right. Hello, everybody. Just want to welcome you to this launch party of the social learning add-on for LifterLMS. I've got a lot of screens open because we're going to be doing some demos of the new social learning add-on, and we've got a bunch of test user set up, and we're really excited to share that with you. And if you guys could, for those of you who haven't yet, go ahead and let us know in the chat where you're calling in from. It's always nice to know. And yeah, just say hello. Let me know if you can hear me okay. And we are going to jump right in and start getting into social learning. So let me just see where I left off here. We got Jeff from Milwaukee, Oregon, Nassim, Littleton, Colorado, Connecticut, Holland, Apex, North Carolina. I grew up near there in Chapel Hill, Maryland, Maria. I think we've got a couple Marylanders here. Hello, Ernest, Tom from Kansas, and Nick, Steve from the UK. All right, representing Great Britain.
We've got somebody from South Africa and from the UK over in Facebook also.
Awesome. Fantastic. Cool. Well, I just want to kick this off with a little story. When I was 20 years old, somebody is calling into this call from Apex, North Carolina. I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, near there. And when I was 20, I was actually living in the mountains in Boone, North Carolina. And I left. I hadn't spent a ton of time outside North Carolina. I went up to British Columbia in Canada and spent a month in the Canadian wilderness in an area called the Northwest British Columbia. And it was extremely remote, no trails, no cell signal. This is before cells, nothing. It was extremely remote. And I went back into the wilderness with about 20 guys and gals about my age, 3 instructors, to learn, basically how to navigate where there are no roads or no trails, and, kind of somewhat dangerous terrain. We had a lot of close encounters with grizzly bears, crossing raging rivers, people getting lost, all kinds of things like that were happening. But it was one of the formative learning experiences of my life there at 20 years old. And what I realized about that experience was that there were instructors there, and, there was some content. We would have various classes on, how to repair a camp stove, or how to navigate with a compass when there are no trails and you can't even see 20 feet away because the brush is so thick, and you can only move, if you're lucky, 2 miles in a day because you're crawling over logs and through, really thick forest with all kinds of moose and black bears and grizzly bears and all kinds of stuff. But when I look back on that experience, it was one of the most formative experiences of my life. It was there where I really realized how much I was into the outdoors, how much, leadership was important to me. It was through a program called the National Outdoor Leadership School. It's where I got the foundation for what I use later in my career as an operations manager in Alaska of a remote sled dog camp on a glacier. And it was in that experience where I learned a lot. But the thing is a lot of the learning it wasn't just about the content when I learned how to use a compass, or when I was told how to use a compass, or how I, learned how to navigate, or what to do when you get lost, what to do when you encounter a grizzly bear at 30 feet, which did happen. And all those things, the real learning, and, where a lot of what I would call engaged learning happened in, as a group, as a team, as a learning community. And when I look at where we are today with LifterLMS, and, teaching online in this internet world that didn't really exist, 15 years ago, and, changes very rapidly, learning is nothing new. Learning is one of those things that makes us human. And I think if the goal is to create engaging learning experiences online, build impactful courses, build meaningful online businesses and membership sites around online education, it's important to look at just us as human beings and how we learn and how learning happens in the offline world. And it is through reflection there where we can look for ways to use technology to operate in a similar way that learning happens in the offline world, but then also leverage some of the incredible scale and connectivity that is not possible in the offline world to the degree it is in the online world. For example, this webinar, we've got people from all over the world coming in here, coming together to learn. This is just one of the beauties of the internet. And in my opinion, the internet is not really the greatest accomplishment of it is not the access to information. It's actually this connection that we have to, Nassim in North Africa, Audra in Florida, Steve in the UK, Tom in Kansas City, and so on, that it's this connection is just as important, if not more important than the content. And that is, kind of the beginning of how we think about building social learning at LifterLMS, why we're building it from the ground up, and using the offline learning world as a model for how to design software. So also to transition it over to LifterLMS as a software company, a learning management system, when we build and evolve the tool that you all use, we learn as a team. I use the tool. I learn when I use it. As Thomas is developing on it, and he comes across a challenge. We talk together, about it. We're listening to the community. We're watching what people say in the Facebook group. We're seeing what people say in the office hours that's included in the Infinity Bundle, that live get together that we do every week. And it's through that team learning where a lot of the direction and evolution of just learning happens as a software company. So we not only are building this tool because we're looking at how learning works in the human animal, but we also use these learning principles in how we develop software. So we're going to get into a tour. I promise we're going to start looking at this in more detail. But just a few more things. I want to thank some people, and then we'll get into the actual tour and looking at what LifterLMS Social Learning Add-on does. I'd like to thank the LifterLMS team, Ali, Kathy, Andres, Thomas, have done so much in terms of supporting this product and the vision of this company. Thomas especially has been really hustling, working hard to get this out and available for you all in the who have pre-ordered it or who have access to it in the Infinity Bundle. And I'm really, quite frankly, blown away by what Thomas has done in terms of, quote, building something like Facebook. But Facebook is a $1 billion company with I don't know how many employees or whatever. So we're very much a self-funded, bootstrapped, startup, and what we're able to accomplish as a team. And, just like to spotlight what Thomas was able to pull off in this version 1 of social learning is really incredible. And I'm really grateful about that. I'd also like to thank the LifterLMS community, and that's not just customers, that's people who are just in our, sphere of influence, whether that's just people in the Facebook group, free users, and our customers. You guys have spoken up and, really guided the product, and you've engaged with me and the team when we're talking about what we're doing, what's helpful. You're voting on features. You're voicing your opinions, positive, negative, or neutral, which we do really appreciate because that feedback is critical to us in building this this product and evolving the software, make sure we're doing that in the right way, in the most useful way. So I just want to thank everybody in the LifterLMS community. I'd particularly like to spotlight Sean Hesketh from WP101. He helped inspired some of this direction towards social learning, and some of his feedback about his ideal learning platform and membership, and what was kind of missing from a social component. So if you're here on this webinar, Sean, thank you very much for your guidance. I'd also like to highlight Peter Felanius. With all my conversations with Peter about his work with outlier learning and the focus on team learning, and some of Peter's ideas have heavily influenced where we're going here. So I just want to thank Peter for that. And then also, just inside of the LifterLMS community, there's a highly engaged group of people, both in Facebook and in the LifterLMS office hours that we hang out every Thursday. I really appreciate all your feedback, and office hours is a place to get guidance on what Lifter does, or strategy about your course marketing or membership. But it's so much more than just me being a guru and telling people what to do. The wisdom is in the tribe. The wisdom is social. And so many good ideas and conversations have come out of all that. So thank you, everybody who has participated in that. So where are we? Let me just lay the groundwork of what has just happened right before this call. So a new version of LifterLMS itself has rolled out. That is LifterLMS 3.14, 3.14. And then social learning as an advanced add-on, that's a premium add-on, has rolled out, and it's available for purchase. And it is also, if you have the Infinity bundle, you can now log into your account on the LifterLMS website, and you are able to download LifterLMS social learning, the advanced add-on there, and work with it on your site. We're actually at version 1.0.2. We've already rolled out a couple of quick updates after the initial release, and there'll be more to come. So this is the first version of LifterLMS social learning. So just keep that in mind. Like, there's still a lot that we can do. And like I mentioned, in terms of us as a team, as a community learning together, I want to hear your feedback about what you'd like to see in social learning. What's working for you? What's missing? What do you like? What do you not like? All that is very helpful. If you see something that you would like to have inside of LifterLMS social learning, there is a contact form on our website that has a feature request option. So please use that. We'll post a link in the chat about how to, or where to go to submit a feature request about really anything, but specifically in the context of this webinar, for the social learning add-on and what you would like it to do. When you update LifterLMS, we always advise you to do it in the most secure, professional way, which is to use a staging environment to back up your site, and just test things in staging before you commit to things in production. As with any update, it's always a best practice to clear your cache after you update, your browser cache. And, especially with social learning, you may be testing with multiple browsers. So it's a good idea to clear all your caches and get ready to, start from a clean slate. Usually with some updates like this, your site's not going to quite look right until you clear that browser cache, and then everything will fall into place. Also, with LifterLMS social learning, you're going to want to flush your permalinks. Kathy, if you could find the piece of documentation on that and post that in the chat. But basically, all you need to do is, after you get everything installed and activated with social learning, it's a good idea to go into your WordPress dashboard go to, I believe it's settings or tools and permalinks. And all you have to do is just click the save button at the bottom of that. It has a fancy name called flushing the permalinks, but please go ahead and do that. And we found that's just in our testing. That's always a good practice. You know, anytime I actually encounter any issue with an update or installing a new plugin or new theme, those are some good go-to best practices in terms of clearing your cache and quote, flushing your permalinks. Now, this is the first version of a software. If anybody notices any things that appear to not quite be working right as expected, or if you encountered an error message, please submit a ticket so that we can, you know, catalog those. And that's just part of software as it evolves. There are always bug fixes, new features, you know, enhancements and that kind of thing. So if you come across anything, please submit it to the appropriate channel. And just submit a ticket there. So, all right. So I'm going to head back over here to the LifterLMS website, and we're just going to take a quick look at the product here. We're going to talk about it at a high level, and then we're going to jump right into the tour. So before we just dive into the tour, you can see here where the social learning add-on is currently in pre-sale mode. Tomorrow, you know, after today, the price, it will no longer be on the pre-sale discount. It will go up to the full retail price of the advanced add-on level, which is $199 for a single site license. You can also gain access to it via the Infinity Bundle. And the price of the Infinity Bundle will be going up from $599 tomorrow to $699. So if you want to lock in your Infinity Bundle pricing or your social learning single product pricing, you'd want to do that today before the price goes up on both of those. So as we head back, let me get this over here. Looking back, there's really 4 main features of version 1 of the social learning add-on. So I just want to highlight those at a high level, and then we're going to actually go look at this stuff. So we have Facebook-like walls on your site, so learners can communicate with each other and the teacher as a community. We're actually renaming that concept from walls. We are moving to timeline. We're finding that is a better it works better as a concept, so we're actually calling that the timeline. Learning milestones for each user can be posted to the timeline automatically for increased gamification, camaraderie, and just overall conversation and awareness of what's happening. So an example of this is when somebody, you know, completes a course or earns an achievement badge, that is posted automatically to the timeline. There's also these advanced user profiles, which we're just looking at over here, and we will get into that in a second. Part of having a social platform and having a Facebook-like experience on your website is to have, you know, these timelines, but then you also have your own individual profile and, you know, a feed of information that's relevant and stories that are relevant to you as an individual. So we're going to look at those profiles. And then this next piece is really interesting, which is the ability to share your profile to the public web. And that's there's settings around this. The site owner can completely lock it down, so that's not possible. Or it can be open to people who are users on the site, or it can be open to only people who are actively enrolled in that course or membership. So there's different settings around that we're going to look at. But what's really cool about this is, let's say you have a course about, or you've completed a course. I'm taking the student's perspective. If I have completed a course and I want to share with a potential employer, I want to send them an email being like, look what I've done. And I have all these amazing, let's say, computer programming courses, web design, web development courses that I've done. I can actually send a link to that employer so that they can see my profile and even direct them to specific achievement badges and that sort of thing. So we'll look at that in a second. This is really interesting because it opens a viral loop in some ways. So if you're not just showing the potential employer or whoever that you're trying to, quote, impress to get a job or whatever it is, it may also be a social thing. So outside of the social, learning team on your website, there's the greater social communities that you are part of. So if you want to share, like, hey, look, I just completed this awesome WordPress course on WP 101, you could share that link and to your social media, and now other people are like, oh, I want to see what is this course that Chris just completed. So it has the potential to open a viral loop, which is really interesting when your students kind of do the marketing for you, because the best marketing is a good product, and the best marketing strategy, in my opinion, is to just let the product speak for itself, and the students will just naturally share gladly and easily their amazing results that you help them achieved through your training program. Cool. Well, that's enough high level stuff. I want to go ahead and drop into the tour. So I'm going to kind of back out of this view of Allie that we're looking at her profile and show you some key things. And just briefly before I do that, I'd like to ask you guys to, if you have questions, the best place to do that, if you're watching this on the Zoom webinar, is to use the Q&A feature. So there's like a place where you can ask a question at the bottom of the website. Please ask as many questions as you want to about social learning or anything, and we will get to all those after the tour. I will also look at the chat, and Allie's going to be bringing questions over from Facebook as well. So please feel free to ask whatever questions are on your mind, and we will get into all of that. Also, at the very end, we are going to be, if you want, you can raise your hand. There's a raise your hand feature if you want to go live and kind of have a verbal conversation around something specific. We can talk about that. So just to get clear on a few vocabulary words, what social learning gives you is an advanced profile, which we're looking at now. It gives you a timeline, which looks like this. And there's also a student directory, which looks like this. This particular test site that we're looking at has 12 users on it. So I'm logged in as me, as Chris, but we're going to look at this and look at some of the different people. So the timeline is essentially like the Facebook feed, and then each one of the courses have their own kind of filtered view of the timeline, and same with memberships. And then when I'm on my profile, which is over here, this is like stuff these conversations are where you can see where it's directly related to me. So there's different ways of looking at it. And I really appreciate Thomas's leadership on this and getting into understanding, this concept of stories and sharing stories where there's an actor, there's a verb, there's the story. But we're going to kind of look at that. But as you start to mess around with it and play with it, it's going to become clear, all the different ways you can look at this. And if you have any questions at all, just ask us. Just use the Q&A feature on Zoom or post a Facebook comment, and we are going to get into it. So this is just a regular LifterLMS site. You can see here, this site has 3 courses. This particular website is built with LifterLMS, the Launchpad theme, the Beaver Builder page building plugin that's made by Beaver Builder, and we're using social learning. We've also got LifterLMS Stripe installed and PayPal and some other things. But that is the technology stack for this. For this particular demonstration, we are going to really just be focusing on the LifterLMS social learning features. So I am going to go ahead and jump into this leadership course right here. I am not enrolled in this course, so you can see that the pricing tables are displaying here. I can't, I actually can get into the lesson because I'm a WordPress administrator, but just bear with me on that just for demonstration purposes. These are grayed out because I'm not actually enrolled. So I'm going to go ahead and take this free access plan here. And there's our notification. I'm enrolled in the course. And this is just a quick 3-lesson course for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to jump right in and take this course, and then we're going to see what happened with the social pieces. So I'm marking lesson 1 complete. And you can see there, I just earned a achievement badge, which is awesome. And I'm on the final lesson. This particular lesson has a quiz, so I'm going to take that quiz. This one has a time limit. I only get 3 attempts. I may have already taken all those attempts, but we'll see. How many letters are in the alphabet? There's 26 of those. What is 2 plus 3? 5. New Mexico is a part of the United States. And which of the following is not a vegetable? That would be chocolate chip cookies. Old MacDonald had a farm. Alrighty, so I got 100%. This is what's called the mini certificate that popped up here for completing the course. I've got a bunch of notifications. And, you know, if I go back to the course, I can see I've completed all these lessons. I'm going to go to my dashboard. And you can see this course is 100% completed. I just want to stop for a moment here and also point out that this is the dashboard, the student dashboard. This is the My Courses page of your LifterLMS site has been completely redone. We've moved to the course tiles. This is been a popular request. Special shout out to Melissa Love for bringing that up a while ago. You can see we've got our achievements here. You can see here's our little mini certificate where I've passed this course, and I'm not currently enrolled in any memberships. So just to do a quick scan of all the stuff here. This is the My Profile. I'm actually going to save that for last because that's part of the, I'll demo that. But we are on, this will just display my courses. This is just going to display my achievements. This is going to display my notification feed. This area is the edit account page. So all this stuff is, has always been here. And these are the fields that you can make required or optional depending upon which screen you're on. This is the edit account screen. But this information is new and part of social learning, where I can choose a display name. I can choose a handle. So it's like @Chris. And you can put in a biography, and you can put in your website, which will turn into a live link, your Facebook name, your LinkedIn, and your Twitter. And if you want, I'm just curious if you guys who are watching this could go ahead and leave a comment in the chat about what other social services, other than Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, would you like to maybe have options for, or different kind of like links and stuff for people. So just let us know in the chat if you have any input on that. Redeem a voucher. This is for our bulk activations and offline sales. You've got your order history. This was a free enrollment here. But so most of the action here is on the My Profile. So just to be clear, the student dashboard has not changed. I mean, the design has changed and it's gotten a lot easier to use. But when you add social learning, you now have a dashboard and the profile, and they serve different purposes. So the profile is right here. This is my social profile, and for testing purposes, for this demonstration, I've made it so that profiles are completely public and open to the web. But you can have it so that if only students are allowed to see, what they're enrolled in, and they can't really share it out to the public web, if somebody were to share this link, they would get redirected, and you can actually choose where to redirect them to. So if anybody has any security questions or anything related to that, please go ahead and ask a question, leave a Q&A about that. But you can see over here where I added my website, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, and so on. So that are some of my social stuff there. But this is the profile. You can change, you can do your own cover image. You can crop it to these dimensions to make it perfect, or just put something big in there and it'll take out a slice. But you can really personalize, your users can personalize their profile on your site. Some of the most recent achievements are highlighted across the profile here. And this is a really interesting piece, which ties into that feature about sharing, being able to share to the open internet and open up that viral loop. So this URL here is unique. So this URL at the top of my screen, you can see this is my profile. And when I open up this achievement badge, there's more information on it. This has a direct link. So if I were trying to, let's say, get some kind of management job, and I wanted to share with the employer who is interviewing me, hey, look at this course I've taken on this website. I've earned this leadership badge. I'm going to open a different browser here for testing purposes. This is Firefox, and I'm going to share that. And you can see how this is just a regular internet visitor able to see my profile and what I've earned. And because the settings are opened to the public, I'm as the employer, I could jump around. I could see what courses Chris is enrolled in, and hey, you know what, maybe I should take that leadership course. And that's where that viral loop really starts to open up, which is a beautiful thing. And just to back out of that, now I'm back here as Chris logged into the website. And let's look at this timeline in a little more detail. You can see here is one of those. This is like my timeline. So you can see this is all stuff related to me. I completed this course on this date. I passed a quiz. I earned this badge, and I enrolled. You can see the enrollment date. So some of the, and this is where students like Thomas and Allie have been communicating with me previously on my profile. So that is the timeline. We're going to look at this stuff real quick and then go to some other different views of the timeline. And Allie, if you can, while I'm talking, maybe you can logged into this site, go leave some conversation or something on some of these posts so we can see what that looks like. But over here, you can see the course I'm enrolled in, my memberships, and I'm not actually in any memberships on this one, and my achievements. So I could come here, and if I'm like, hey, I want to send my mom an email and be like, hey, look at me, I earned this. I could just copy this link, head right over to Gmail or whatever, and be like, hey, mom, look what I accomplished, or, send it to whoever. You can see here that if I need to jump back to my regular dashboard, let's say I want to manage an order, if I wanted to mess with one of my orders, or I wanted to edit my need to change my phone number and that sort of thing, I could do all that here. You can also, from the profile, you can also, edit your information by clicking this link right here, which is pretty cool. I can jump back and I can get that standard LifterLMS enrollment fields and also update my my social profile fields. So heading back, if I were to go to the main timeline, remember LifterLMS social learning creates 2 new pages. When it's installed, you get this timeline view, and then you get the student directory over here, which we'll look at in a little bit. But if I've left my profile, and now I'm out at the global timeline. And again, this timeline for this user is set to be completely open for demonstration purposes. And look at that, Allie has congratulated me on my success. So thank you, Allie. And as I scroll down this timeline, I can see my accomplishments. Those just happened. I can see some other conversations that were happening with me. I can see another user, Sam, on the site and what she's saying. I can see that Sam completed this course right here. I already had congratulated Sam there, but I could do it again. And, this creates that conversation and brings in a little bit of gamification so that your online course site, your membership site, no longer feels like a ghost town. I'm actually using really big graphics for the achievement badge. So it's a big graphic. It doesn't, by the way, post when somebody fails. It does post when they pass. And we also did not put every single lesson completion into the automated learning milestone feed so it wouldn't get unruly and out of control. But anyways, that's what timeline looks like. And if I go to students, I can see all these other people on the site. So we were just looking at Sam. If I go over to Sam, I'm looking at her profile now. If I can see her badge, I could link to that if I wanted to. How are you? What did you think of the lesson? And you can also notice that we can also post links in here. So I could actually put, check out, excuse me, LifterLMS.com. And we've got an actual, clickable link there. So that is, kind of like Facebook posting a status update, but I'm actually on Sam's page posting that update. So if I were to, let me just back out and we'll go look as somebody else. I'm going to go to my courses. I'm going to sign out of the website. And I'm actually going to log in as Sam, not Chris. So if I go to my profile here, this is a regular user, not a WordPress administrator. Sam's just a student, and you can see the various things that Sam accomplished. I'm Sam now. I'm looking at Sam's stuff. I can edit my profile. I can share that achievement, which is unique to Sam. And then if I go over to the timeline, you can see that I am enrolled in 3 different courses. If we go back to the homepage of this website, there are 3 courses here. You can tell because this pink bar all the way across And if I go to my courses, I'm fully completed. I earned a badge. I got a certificate. This is Sam's certificate. I can print that. I can download that as a print to PDF if I want to. But if I go back to my profile, you can see all that same stuff. Like I could say, Sam Langlois. I'm just updating how my name appears and that sort of thing. So, but anyways, going back to the timeline, we talked about stories, we talked about verbs, we talked about actors, people completing that story. But so there's these different views of the timeline. There is my profile, which is all the stuff directly related to me, who is Sam right now. There's the global timeline, which right now I have set to be public and open. And then there is a timeline for each course. So in terms of the leadership course, this is a timeline specifically for that course. This is a timeline specifically for the internet marketing course. This is a timeline specific to the corporate training course. If Sam was enrolled in a membership, there would be a filtered view of timeline related to that membership. So there's different ways of looking at the timeline there. And then as Sam, I'm Sam now. If I want to go check out Chris, I can see what Chris is up to. My wife's name is Sam, so this is just kind of funny. But how are you? So you can see Sam, said something on Chris Badgett's timeline. And you can also see, like, one of the most powerful things you can do in learning, and this is something I've learned on my own. Peter Felanius has also really highlighted this, and I'm hearing it come up in other places too, which is having people, after they absorb the content, like let's say Sam is in the leadership course, and like right after lesson 2 in the leadership course, at the bottom of the lesson, it says something like, go to the timeline and let us know what you got out of it, or what did you learn, or what, you're opening a loop there for someone to check in about what they're learning. This helps you realize, it helps reinforce the learning. It helps the teacher realize if the curriculum is working. It allows people to start interacting with each other so that different users can learn from other people's reflection on the same content. Because last time I checked, there's a lot of different perspectives on how people see the world. And we can learn a lot by opening our mind to the perspective of others, even about something as simple as one lesson in an online course. Different people are going to get different things out of it. And by having a public dialogue about that can be quite powerful. So that is what that is all about. And I want to show you guys, I'm going to log out as Sam and then show you some privacy settings. And if you have any questions at all, I just want to encourage you to use the Q&A here in Zoom. If you're on Facebook, leave a comment. We're going to have plenty of time for questions and get into that. But I'm going to sign out as Sam. I'm going to sign back in as Chris. So Chris that's me, is a WordPress administrator. So I've got the black bar across the top of the site, so I can easily get into my dashboard and actually, oops, let me log in again. Sometimes this is, you have to clear the cache to get things going here. WP Engine's got some good caching going on here. So I'm just going to go into my general settings here. This is just WP Engine hosting, by the way, if you're watching this and you don't have that. I'm just going to purge the caches just to see if there was a little issue there, since I was like kind of flipping around between different users with different permission levels and that kind of thing. So I'm back, going back to the dashboard. You can see how it dropped me right in. Now, I'm going to go into my LifterLMS settings. Now, this is important. When you're ready to move forward with social learning, it's a good idea to update to the most current version of LifterLMS. So I'm just going to go to my plugins here, and you can see I'm on LifterLMS 3.14. It's always good to do your updates in a staging environment and do a backup before you run updates. You can see I've got a lot of the various LifterLMS plugins installed here for this site. And, you know, for this sample site, we're using the Launchpad theme and the Beaver Builder Pro version plugin for creating that fancy homepage. But if we go over here into settings, when you first install the social learning add-on, over here inside of integrations, you can see, scroll down, and here is LifterLMS social learning. So the first thing you want to do is you want to turn it on by putting that checkbox on there. And just keep in mind, these pages will be created automatically when you install social learning, the student directory and the timeline, which I happened to rename this one. I kept the name timeline, and I just renamed student directory to just students there in my menu, but you can see it's called student directory. If I were to look at this page, it's a regular WordPress page. You can see there is just a little short code here that causes that to be the, that's what the installer kind of sets up. But anyways, what you do is you set up your student directory page, your site timeline, and this is that area I was talking about where we decided to make the social stuff completely public. Now, a lot of people don't want to do that, and that's fine. These settings are powerful. You can not do public. You can do private, where you have to be a user on the site, which is going to lock it down quite a bit. And then students only, which is going to lock it down even further, so that you can only see timelines that you are actively enrolled in. And I'm going to update this and show you something else. I'm going to click Save Changes here and go back down. And after I save that, you can see that there's a restricted access redirect here. And what that means is, since I'm locking it down so that only enrolled students can see those filtered views of the timeline, I want to redirect people to my courses page, which is also the login page if someone is logged out. So the user experience there is, I see my friend share a link to an achievement he earned on this Lifter site that I'm a part of. I click that link, I go check it out, and it redirects to the login page. Oh, I must not be logged in. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and then now I'm on my friend's dashboard. But if you want a different experience, or my friend's profile rather, excuse me. If you want a different experience, you can actually create your own page that people see if they try to access social content that they're not allowed to see. These little checkboxes down here are where you can, enable Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm going to move this back to public for a second. Save changes. And just keep in mind that with the Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, those do not show up unless there's a link there, somebody's entered the content. So those little icons, you can enable them, but if somebody doesn't have a Twitter account and they don't enter anything, there's not going to be a bird with a blank spot. So that is a lightning tour of LifterLMS social learning. I'm really excited, and I'm really happy to get into questions with you guys. and hear what you think. Just if you don't have a question and you just want to, just want to share how it looks or some ideas, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Love to see it. But I'm going to shift gears and head on over into question answering mode. So let me get that up here. And thank you guys and gals for coming with my bearing with my presentation there. I'm going to take it from the top. Dana asks, do you have a link to a recorded webinar that talks about what's included in the Infinity Bundle? So the replay version of this webinar will we'll likely have a link or a button below the replay that links over to the Infinity Bundle. But I can explain that real quickly here. If you go to the LifterLMS website and you go to the pricing page, you can see that our integrations and third-party integrations and our design and support add-ons, these are $99 each. You can get them all inside the Universe bundle, so for $299. And then the Infinity bundles, we'll end up updating this to include LifterLMS, well, all the advanced add-ons, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But right here, take me to the detailed complete feature list. This is where it gets into what's in which bundle. So you can see here that with the Infinity bundle, you get everything that's included in the Universe bundle, plus the advanced add-ons, which are the office hours, that weekly hangout call with me and some amazing people working to build the most engaging courses on the internet. It's a lot of fun and a lot of wisdom in that group, and it's a good time. We've got private areas, so if you're offering private coaching, and now this is no longer coming soon, that's what this little calendar icon means. We've got social learning is out, it's in the wild, and I'm super excited about that. So the thing that makes advanced add-ons advanced is these are things that require active involvement. If you're building more of a passive online course that you want just passive income, as little time as possible, you may be good with the Universe bundle. But if you're going to get into things like doing private coaching, charging a lot more money for courses plus coaching, if you're going to do courses plus coaching plus community with social learning, that's even, we're heading to a really interesting stack of learning suite and learning experience. That's where social learning fits in, and it does require active involvement to really work well. And same with, these are what's coming next to the Infinity bundle, advanced quizzing and assignments requiring manual grading. So an advanced quiz question type would be like a short answer requiring manual grading. So again, that's not passive, that's active manual involvement of the leadership on the platform or the teacher or the instructor. Same with assignments that need to be graded. So that's kind of the differentiation point of that. Today, the Infinity bundle is $599. And once all this stuff is in here, it's going to, the Infinity bundle will cost $999 a year. So it's a good time to get in before the price goes up and lock in your pricing. All right, I'm just going to go to the next question here. Patrick asks, can you also manage course reviews via the dashboard? Just wondering, as I'm trying to set up reviews so I can share them as testimonials. Right now, we don't have review management from the dashboard. I'd kind of need to hear, there is a review system in LifterLMS. I'd kind of need to hear a little more detail about what you're trying to do or what your ideal scenario is. If you would, maybe go ahead and add a bunch more detail around what you're asking, and we'll get to that. Kurt asks, so is the option for students to share badges and achievements something like Credly? I'd looked into that, but was put off by the price. Free up to 50 students and earners, but then $1,495 annually, exclamation point. I hear you, Kurt. Yeah, this is the thing. People end up with what I call the learning management system or membership site or online course software Frankenstein. They get all these different tools made by all these different companies, and next things they know, they've got a big fat hole in their wallet and a very hard to manage kind of disjointed system. So to be completely frank with you, I have not followed Credly close at all. We're building this from the ground up based on what our community is looking for and the opportunities we see to create, to help people create engaged learning programs online. So um, the fact that you can share achievements outside of the website, I would imagine is similar to Credly in terms of credibility or sharing your credentials or whatever. So thank you for that question. Um, but yeah, it's I always recommend when building a learning management system, an online course, or a membership site. This is one of the problems we work to solve with LifterLMS is to do it with as few tools as possible, made by as few different companies as possible. And also with a reasonable price tag. So LifterLMS doesn't have metered pricing where it limits the number of courses or the number of users you can have on your site. It's really easy for expense to really get away from you with a lot of the other systems out there, especially in the hosted space. But LifterLMS is in the self-hosted space of online courses and membership sites. So that means you own control, and it's more extendable, and you've got the whole WordPress community and ecosystem of products and stuff like that. So Audra asks, what if you take 20 courses, will the little trophies show up in the header? I haven't fully tested that out to that scale. I believe it shows the three most recent. Maybe Thomas, if you're here, you could leave a comment about that. But I believe it's the three most recent, but they'll also all be right here over in the achievements area. If you're looking at somebody's profile, they'll all be over here. So Susan asks, I realized they are very different, but how could the social learning work with the new private areas add-on? That is a great question. So I think the way to think about that is sort of what I was alluding to with the course plus coaching plus community. So the 3 C's there, course, coaching, community. That's a more advanced training program online. It's probably worth a lot more, and it's a lot more likely to get results for your learners and also help you build a sustainable business. So at a conceptual level, when you add to the stack like that, community and coaching in addition to just online course content and engagement, that is a winning combination. So in terms of private, like how it would actually work, that's more an issue of how you design your program. Like, are you going to have, like, maybe you have a $100 online course and then a $1,000 version that includes the course plus weekly coaching plus access to the community of the most engaged people. So that would be an example of how you could use them together. If you have more questions or detail around that, just let me know. Ernest asks, on the timeline, can the student show or hide events that they are not so proud of, like bad quiz scores or negative student comments? This is a great question. We did not design it so that a quiz fail shows up. We just did quiz pass. So quiz fail is important. It is important to, help people who are failing. And that's one of the reasons why there is a quiz fail engagement behavioral trigger that you can tie into with LifterLMS, and perhaps in the teacher or a tutor or an email or perhaps words of encouragement to the student in an automated way. So that's there. In terms of like deleting and moderation and all that, these are coming features into LifterLMS social learning. Again, this is version 1 of the software, so it's going to get better as time goes on. And we've got the ability, deleting capabilities and moderation are priorities on our radar. So thanks for that great question. Image posting by Maria. That's another great question. Not at this moment, but that is a great idea. You can see here where we can do text, we can do links at this time, but advancing the poster is an interesting proposition, for what people can do and what they might want to share and through what vehicle. So thanks for that. If anybody else is really excited about posting images, let us know in the chat. Dana asks, is the timeline for everyone in one course or membership or for everyone in all courses? Is it the same timeline and only things related to the course you're in shows up, or are there different timeline pages, not personal timelines for each course? Whoa, that is a great question, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you. And I think it's just one of those things that it takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around it. But basically the way it works is there's one timeline. If I'm the owner of the website, the WordPress administrator, I'm enrolled in everything, I can see everything. That's like the big timeline. As a person on their dashboard, this is like my timeline. This is stuff that's everything here is directly related to me. And if I go over here, as like I was showing with the SAM user who was enrolled in the leadership course, there is a timeline for each course and membership. And depending upon how you use these settings over here, this determines like who can see what. So I know that might be a little bit confusing, but I'd encourage everybody who's watching this to play around with it, to get a couple different browsers open, be a WordPress admin, have a couple test students that you experiment with, or get some friends and test that out, and you'll kind of get a feel for that. And if you have any feedback about that, we want to hear about it. So thank you for the great question. And over time, I hope to be able to explain that better. And as time goes on, we know we need to get more documentation out about this, so we will be working on that as well. So Nasim asks, is it possible to add a unique certificate number for each certificate generated? That is a good question. I'd kind of need to see more detail about that, but I imagine that is related to a feature request I see from time to time, which is, by the way, we do have a feature voting board. Maybe Kathy, could you post that link in the chat? It's a good place to go so we can kind of gauge what people are, what they'd like to see. But like when we were looking at, for example, this achievement right here, you can see there's a unique ID or URL here. But if you're like trying to create like when a student registers, they get some kind of student number that then there's a short code to put it on the certificate. We don't have that at this time. That would require custom development. If I miss your question, please provide more detail and we'll go from there. Maria asks, images in the timeline posts. Right at this time, we do not have that, but we will. That's a good request. I appreciate that feedback. This is version 1, so we will keep evolving this based on what you guys say. So if anybody else is excited about image posting, let us know in the comments. Ernest says, does the user have the ability to show user based on filter like course completed or badges earned? Is there pagination if there are more than X number of uses? Yeah, we're working on, just scaling with pagination issues in terms of the feed. So we always want everything to be completely scalable. And does the ability to show user based on filter like courses, memberships, or badges earned? We don't have a filter now. Like if I wanted to see everybody with this leadership trophy badge, We don't have that, but that is a good question. I do want to add though that in the back end of WordPress, for the WordPress administrators, there is the LifterLMS reporting, which we can see where people have been. Let me get that. Completing the various courses and that sort of thing. So it looks like we got something there we just need to work out. But you can see Thomas here has completed the corporate training course. I can look at that course. I can even see how Thomas did on that quiz and how he answered all the individual questions correctly or whatever. So I just want to note that there is this whole world of reporting in the back end, which is, that's kind of the learning management part of it, where the site owner or the teacher with the new instructor role can filter and review reports on how people are doing. So reporting and social, or kind of different areas. But I appreciate that question. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Dana asks, so the site timeline, how does that relate to individual courses? I missed that there. So the timeline, depending upon the settings, will show you different filtered views of content. If you are the WordPress site owner, you're basically going to see everything. And, that's a great place to go engage as a site owner and just kind of have conversations around things you want to have conversations around. But each individual course, let me log in as Sam here, and I will show you that again, because I know it takes a little bit to kind of get it all and understand the concepts. So let's see here. If I go to Sam's timeline, this is a regular WordPress user. You can see they've got the different courses here. So if I go to the leadership course, I am just seeing activity on the leadership course. So I hope that answers that. And that's true for courses and memberships. Thanks for the kind words, Dana. I appreciate that. Kurt asks, will there be a way for students to block other specific students from posting in their space in case somebody gets obnoxious, unpleasant, etc.? Yeah, that's something on our radar in terms of moderation ability. So the first place to go next is really with the highest levels of moderation, but in terms of site owners being able to moderate and that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll track with that issue and just see what people are saying and what they're asking for. And we want to hear from you on the ideal kind of moderation scenarios. But I hear you on what you're saying, that, if I don't want somebody to post on my wall, and I understand that comment. So thanks for that. Dana asks, what's the security like on private areas? I talk to people about their health via herbal consultations. Don't have that on this platform right now. And am I correct? There's a place you can leave private blog posts, but not a place to chat live one-on-one in private areas. Good question. Yes, LifterLMS does have an advanced add-on in the Infinity bundle called Private Areas. And I would encourage you to look at the documentation. We'll post a link to the documentation down below, and you can look at that. Also look at the LifterLMS blog. We've got a bunch of screenshots and stuff about private areas. But yes, you can have a private area per student, or in your case, per patient. So if you have training courses, that's great. Then you have private pages per student, which is kind of, you said the word like kind of mini blog, and that's exactly what it is. And then also on that, there can be a conversation between the site owner and the learner there that remains completely private and out of public view. So that's with LifterLMS private areas, which released a couple months ago. But yeah, you can pick that up or get access to that via the Infinity Bundle. But same thing, just like with social learning, it's a good idea to install it, create a test user, and start playing around with it so you can really get the full feel of what it's like, so that you know the user experience, not just as a site owner, but also as one of your patients or somebody who's just taking a course and that kind of thing. Anonymous attendee asks, can you have the timeline actually shown on the lesson page itself? It seems like it would be better that I don't have to leave the lesson or course page. We're going to be working on some documentation about this, on how exactly it will work, in terms of if you want to post a certain view of the timeline in any location via like short codes or whatever. We're still working on that piece, and we'll have more information about that soon. But yeah, that is one of our goals, to make it so that you can put that content where you want it. Robert asks, short codes. Do we have short codes for restricting page content for members, non-members? That has always been a part of LifterLMS. So LifterLMS has something called access plans for protecting just courses. LifterLMS also has memberships, which you can use to offer course bundles or bundle in other non-LMS content and pages, and that protects that locks down content or grants access to certain things. So that's always been a part of LifterLMS and how it works. So you don't need like a third-party membership plugin to achieve all these kinds of membership scenarios that you can come up with. And there actually are short codes if you want to lock down like a particular part of a page to a membership. So I hope that answered your question, Robert. Kirsten asks, can a student add pictures to the timeline? I'm seeing this request coming up. So thank you for that. We already discussed that one, so I'm going to move on. Patrick asks, the shared following of a course is a great feature. Can we get a scenario up that we can offer a niche product that kicks off with more than 3 members signed up, so the benefits for social LMS would be effective? I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but a niche product that kicks off when more than 3 members signed up. I'm not sure what that means. I need a little bit more detail to really answer that one. But in terms of like social LMS and social proof or whatever, I would need a little more detail to answer that one. Tom asks, can these be used for discussion? Will there be threads? So I'm taking a course and I want to ask a question about something related to the lesson. Can others submit input directly related to the specific topic? So this is a great question. Yeah, like you can see over here in the timeline that this is the story, actor, verb, story. So Chris, actor, verb, object, or whatever. Chris completed the leadership course. This story happened. Allie made a comment, and then Chris followed up with that. So you can see here that these avatars are a little bit smaller. These are the replies to this story. So I hope that makes sense. I do want to note that LifterLMS lessons already have a commenting system. So I'd encourage everybody to just really map out how you want conversations to happen. Do you want to, because social is more like a feed of like what's happening right now. If you want to kind of curate a conversation around a specific lesson, you might want to use lesson comments for that and use the community for something else. So yeah, I would just encourage people to think about, what is your community strategy? What are the building blocks? What are the pieces that you need for it to be effective? And another one that comes up a lot related to this, and we've had this conversation in the LifterLMS office hours a bit, which is what are the place of forums? So if you're using bbPress, is there a place for forums and a timeline social learning feed as well? And I would say it depends. Maybe some people just need forums that are organized around topics. Maybe some people just need this more community like Facebook like timeline. And some people need both. So it really depends. I'd encourage you to just think about all your options and what works best for your users and do some testing, see what works in your community. So Dana asks, what is the security like on private areas? I talk to people about their health. Oh, I think we already answered that one. Gavin asks, once a student publishes more than one course or purchases more than one course or product, can we view progress per course and not only per student? Absolutely. If you are a instructor's assistant, or the WordPress administrator, you can go into the LifterLMS reporting and you can, view the progress of everybody enrolled in a course. So I hope I answered that one. Michelle Noonan, how's it going, Michelle? Can you tag other users? Yes. Well, I believe that's not available just yet in this version, but we're aware of that concept. If you notice, we had a feature called the handle. So if I go to my profile, this right here @Sam is my handle. And if I want to edit that, or if so ultimately our goal is to, we're exploring using handles or @mentions similar to what you see in like Facebook or Twitter. But I'd love to hear more just in the chat about what you're excited about related to that, or how you might use that, just so we're clear on your ideal scenario.
Hey, Chris, we've had some Facebook users patiently waiting to have their questions answered. Would you mind doing a couple of those next?
Sure.
I threw them over at the bottom of the chat window there for you.
Bottom of the chat window. Yeah, let's see here. Get that. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right, Facebook folks. What's the timestamp that I'm going to, Allie? Is it like, who was or just stop me. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up.
You can start it at 2:11 p.m. actually.
Okay, 2:11.
That's in order, yeah.
I've got 2:12.
What happens if a student's membership has more than one course within it?
Let's see. I have different timestamps, but we know my computer is a little different in terms of time.
Well, there you go.
So let me actually just take it from the bottom and let me know when I get to it. So open in a new tab so they don't take them off the site. So one person is asking, could you make the social links like Facebook open in a new tab so they don't take them off the site? I think that's good feedback. I appreciate that. We'll take that into consideration. But that's a question about, if somebody's looking at somebody's profile and they click on their LinkedIn, if that doesn't open in a new tab, then they're away from their learning platform. So that's good feedback. Can this link be emailed to user automatically upon registration? Which link? Do you know, Allie?
Sorry, I was muted again. I think that followed the question that was right above it. So I think those two are related.
I see. So the Facebook question, I got you. I'm seeing the system here. Can you tell me what happens if 300 students sign up the first day of sales? Will the timeline have 300 notices saying full name just signed up for the course, that would get kind of spammy. I appreciate that feedback. Right now, if the entire timeline was open and there was just one course, there would be a very long, feed about that. So I appreciate that feedback. That's good. Right now, yes, they all would show up, but this is, again, version 1. And it's these kind of comments we want to see. So thanks for, raising that scale question. Let's see. Daryl asks that the MyAchieve. Daryl is having an issue that the MyAchievement short code saying a file cannot be empty. I would go ahead and try the clear cache and flush a permalinks. If that doesn't solve it, submit a support ticket on that one. All right. Here's some more questions from Facebook. What happens if a student membership has more than one course within it? So then they have a, if you have auto-enrollment set up or they're enrolled in multiple courses because of a membership, it's still a course that has its own filtered view of the template. So in theory, not much is different. It's just they got into the course in a different way. But the membership would have its own filtered view as well. Hope that makes sense. Can the student directory be restricted so students can only see people in their course or memberships? I would have to look in that one in more detail. In general, there is the privacy setting about locking down social learning to enrolled students only, but I'm not 100% sure on the filtered view of the actual people page in the student directory. So that's a good question. I don't know the exact answer on that one. We'll have to get back to you on that one. All right. Simon Brown is coughing, asking for some Facebook questions to be answered. Show some love to Facebook. All good. So Patrick is providing a little more detail in response to my question that might not be directly related to social LMS. He's new to Lifter and he's trying to understand to set up the review functionality. His ideal scenario would be to ask students to review the course they just completed automatically. If so, can the students manage those reviews? I can't seem to find anything on review functionality only, but on the course page saying I can enable reviews and can manage them on the back end. But that's about as far as I've got. I'm interested in the front end of it. Yes, there is a basic review functionality in LifterLMS. The best way to really get a feel for it is to enable it and then create a couple of test users and run them through the system. If you want to encourage people to leave reviews, I would put something in your last lesson or something like that about doing that, encouraging them to do so. But I know our documentation is a little light on the review side. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm just going to make a note about that. I think I'm going to jump back to the Q&A. Did I get much of the Facebook questions, Allie?
You got them, yep.
Cool. Let's see here. Okay, we're back to Q&A. Is this mobile friendly? Have you tested? I haven't looked at mobile super close, but everything we do is, responsive best practices. So I appreciate that question. And it is, really critical to us that everything is a great mobile experience, which it should be. If you notice anything, please let us know. Maria asks, does the timeline and student directory automatically link? And does the social learning feature always create a directory link and timeline for each user, including affiliates? Great question. So when you install social learning, it creates those two pages for you, the student directory and the timeline. if you want them in the menu on your website, like I did up here, you actually have to go into WordPress and add those as menu items. And you'll notice that I renamed mine to just students instead of student directory, so it took up less space, and I made it all capitalized or whatever. But yeah, that's just a basic WordPress menus function. And by the way, on the LifterLMS demo site, there's a great free course on WordPress basics, and there's a good lesson in there about working with menus if anybody's not familiar with those. In terms of each user, including affiliates, I haven't looked at this with affiliates, so I can't answer that question. Like if you're using affiliate WP or you have users on your site who are not students, I'll have to look at that one in more detail and get back to you on that one. Alvaro, it is great to have you here. It's been a while. You're welcome for the preview. Thanks very much for coming. His question is, could this social timeline for each course be useful for answering questions? Does it have some kind of search that enables the student to search for a keyword, a tag, or something like that? That is a great question. I've been thinking about this issue a lot myself. As the version 1 of the software, tackling the search function is a really good question, just like moderation. And yeah, I appreciate that feedback. In many ways, Facebook groups themselves, their search is there, but it's not really that great. So it's a good question, and it's a good feature request. So I'm just going to make note of that. And I appreciate you providing detail about, searching for a keyword and tag and so on. WordPress by itself has its own searching challenges or whatever. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that's a good problem to solve in terms of, people wanting to, dig or mine the timeline a little bit. It makes a lot of sense from an end user perspective. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Brad, what's going on? Good morning. Hope you had a good workout. Under the heading of teacher stress, community help, a larger group, 18,000 students and shared learning experience, is there a better way to prompt, show, encourage, highlight, think heat maps, UX, and visitor recordings for the students to actually utilize their social learning features on each course? Hook in each after the lesson template and add a prompt to post in that particular lesson specific social learning feed. Can you go back over that part again? I saw you point out a small something. That is cool. I appreciate the questions about scale with 18,000 students. There's Lifter sites out there with many tens of thousands of users, and scale is an important issue. I think one of the problems that Brad is pointing to in the online education space is really interesting, which is I see it a lot with forums. People will create forums and add that to their online course or their membership site or their LMS, but then nobody uses them. And LifterLMS has a BBPress integration where you can associate a forum with a course and so on. But there's a couple forums that, I've been a part of that are very active, but I think the majority of them are ghost towns. I think a lot of the issue with forums and social learning has to do with leadership of the site creator and the teachers or instructors, the coaches on those platforms. And there has to be some forethought into how, what is the social strategy? Because if you just present content and tack on a forum and hope for the best, or tack on social learning, I think it takes some instructional design leadership to seed and get that flywheel spinning and that momentum started with social timelines and so forth. So what I mean by that is, I think a classic example is that immediately on enrollment, it's probably a good idea to, if you're going to use social learning, to ask your users to introduce themselves on the timeline, and just kind of, as a leader, you're kind of kicking off and you're holding space for introductions, which is the very beginning of any relationship, and then it just builds from there. So instead of, when you're just teaching lessons and you're just providing content, think about how you're going to guide community. I'd love to have a chat offline with you, Brad, and get into a little bit more about what you're talking about with heat maps and, guiding people with lesson specific feeds. As we flesh out the documentation, again, this is version 1 and we're just launching here. We're going to get into some more of these nuances, and we want to keep a close eye on those large platforms. And for example, we removed the lesson completion auto post because we thought that would be too spammy, especially if they're short lessons, that people are just completing lessons constantly, especially if there's more than 100 or 1,000 students in there. So yeah, we'll keep exploring that. I really appreciate the comments, and we'll keep exploring that one. Okay, Robert asks, content restricts short codes for members, non-members, logged in, not logged in. That's all built right inside of LifterLMS. I think I pretty much answered that one. And then for social learning, again, there is this network privacy setting that you can work with, and I'm showing right now on my screen. So Gavin asks, once completing a course, your final quiz, shouldn't the student be directed to his dashboard, or is it a bug over my side? The final quiz. Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm just going to make a note of that. Quiz. Because lesson or quizzes can have multiple attempts, so they can retake quizzes if you set it up that way. It may not be doing exactly what you would hope it would do, but I do appreciate that. I do know what you were talking about there, and I'm just making a note about that. What's the best user experience if a quiz is on the very last lesson? So thanks for bringing that up. Brad asks, someone named Anonymous asked sort of the same question. All right, so hopefully we covered that a little bit. Can you go back over the part where you pointed out the lesson course-specific link to the social learning area in the right-hand sidebar of the account area, I believe? I believe this is what Brad was talking about. I'm logged in as Sam. And if I go to the site-wide timeline, not just my profile timeline, you can see where I can filter by course. So I think that's what you're talking about. If I had memberships, membership would be down here and links to the timeline filtered by those memberships. So I think that's where we're at, but I know it can keep evolving from there. So thank you for that. Patrick says he just signed up. You get listed when there's 3 people, you get enrolled automatically, so there are other people to share with. I think if that's a question about what to do when the first student signs up and nobody else is there yet, it's more of an edge case, but right now they would be alone. So I would encourage you to think about what would a teacher do when the first student who's an early bird walked in the classroom by themselves. I understand maybe the classroom door might be locked and people would gather outside and, the first group would come in together. But for right now, they would just come in solo. So maybe be ready as the leader or the instructor or the coach to interact with that first student before more students get there. Gavin asks, once completing a course, your final quiz, shouldn't the student be directed? I think we did that one. Maria asks, is this integrated with Woo? So WooCommerce is Woo is more integrated with LifterLMS, I think is the way I would describe that. So Lifter, one of the problems we want to solve with Lifter is avoiding what I call the software Frankenstein that we talked about earlier in this webinar. And in terms of WooCommerce, we'd like to integrate with Woo, even though LifterLMS has its own native integration with PayPal and Stripe for taking credit cards, because some people need other payment gateways provided by Woo, or access to some of their tax management systems as an example, or they're selling other products like physical products other than courses. So WooCommerce is a good match for that kind of store that has all kinds of stuff in it. So yeah, if you're selling with Woo, no problem. You're still like getting people into courses, and if you have social learning, it's the same enrollment. It's just coming through a different sales mechanism. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope I answered your question. But yeah, no problems using LifterLMS social learning with if you're using WooCommerce to sell. Can you add? Simon asks, can you add autocomplete hashtags for lessons? This would mean that students can talk about specific lessons. It's a way to drill down the conversation to a topic. I like that idea. I'm just taking a note of that. This is where this feedback loop is really important. We're learning together here. So looking at hashtags and how to socially talk about a specific lesson is an interesting problem. Hashtags, interesting. Thanks for the great question or comment there, Simon. Dana asks, anything on your radar about creating a homepage with Launchpad and Thrive Architect the way you have with Beaver Builder? It's not a priority at the moment. We're super focused on social learning and everything else that's coming into the Infinity bundle and improving the LifterLMS core. But I appreciate that. We get some requests about Thrive, but not a ton. But I know it is I believe this is Thrive themes you're talking about, which I know a lot of people do use with Lifter. So I appreciate that. I'm just saying from a capacity perspective, it's not something we'd be looking at in the near future. That being said, more and more people are building their own products for LifterLMS or contributing to the code to the LifterLMS core. So I would encourage any developer, entrepreneur, or someone out there who wants to solve that problem and share the solution with other people. There's always an opportunity to roll a custom solution and even build a product out of that. Recently, for example, Conrad over at ThemeCraft just rolled out a theme for LifterLMS that looks great with LifterLMS. So I just really appreciate this growing community of people building products around Lifter. So Gavin asks, what about live lessons, classes, events? Do we have to use an external webinar program and integrate it if possible in some cases? Yes, so right now LifterLMS is more of an online course tool. If you're going to do live webinars and presentations like we're doing right now, we really like this tool called Zoom. We're creating a recording right now that later we can reuse, and it's not uncommon for people to deliver some trainings live and then take those recordings and put those inside of the course or the membership. But right now, yes, for webinar, you need to use an external tool like Zoom, GoToWebinar, Webinar Jam. If you're not in the LifterLMS Facebook group yet, I think most of the people on this call probably are, but there was recently a big conversation about webinar tools. I think, that issue of how do we handle live training inside of a website is a really interesting one. So I appreciate the conversation around that. And I know that is something that's, part of the whole learning platform conversation. So thank you for bringing that up. Cheers. Dana asks, do you have any info on people who are using Lifter with Thrive Themes templates? Which templates are working with the lessons? Thanks. I think the best place to ask that is in the LifterLMS Facebook group. That's where a lot of Lifter people hang out. Also, I'm guessing that Thrive has its own social community, like a Facebook group or a members forum or something like that. I would encourage you to ask that as well, and perhaps even hit up Shane Mallah, the creator of Thrive, on Twitter or something like that. See if he has any ways to help you connect with other Thrive users. So it's a good question. Allie, do we have any more in the Facebook group?
We do not have any more in the Facebook group currently. It looks like somebody has raised their hand over here.
Cool. Yeah, so we're going to get into the live discussion part of this. So if anybody wants to go live, just raise your hand in the Zoom settings there, and we can have a live conversation there. So let me track down where the hand stuff is. We've got one raised hand. And let's see, who is that? Simon. All right. It says allow to talk is not available because Simon Brown is using an older version of Zoom. You need to promote Simon to panelist. Coming right up. So Simon, maybe update your Zoom at some point, but I'm going to promote you to a panelist.
And then Chris, if there's no more live questions, we do have some questions further up in the chat that we haven't gotten to yet.
Awesome. Simon, I'm going to unmute you. And then how you doing?
Hello.
Hey, Simon.
Hey, oh my God. Sorry, I left the room. Just come back.
Yeah, you're here, man. You're here. A bunch of people. What's going on? How can we help you?
So I think you've been answering all my questions so far. It looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, what you've built here is basically exactly what my clients have been looking for. They currently use Facebook as a way of communicating with their students with private Facebook groups. So this looks absolutely sensational.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what, in your opinion, or what do you see as like some of the problems with Facebook groups, or what?
Well, first of all, you take people off to a third-party website.
Yeah.
There's lots of students that just don't want to be on Facebook. They have quite a unique group of students that, as I said, they do flash sales. They get 300 people signing up in one go, and yeah, they've got a very loyal following of students. So they've been looking into doing forums. They're currently using Facebook, as I said, which is it's such a pig to use. So this is just absolutely what they've been screaming for. So I'm very much looking forward to rolling this out.
Awesome. Well, I mean, especially as somebody like yourself who's serving other clients, who are doing courses or memberships or whatever, any feedback you have, or we're always listening. So thanks a lot for that. Well, and I appreciate the words of encouragement.
Yeah, you're doing, it's fantastic. I think basically what they've always asked for is for ways to have a discussion like you've got here, but to also, what they really want is people to discuss particular lessons. So some lessons that they've got are very hard, some of them are easy, but sometimes the students like to discuss, and that's what they do. They discuss particular lessons. They're uploading, it's all design based, so they're uploading their own images as well, and discussing particular lessons. So as I said, if there's any way of keeping the conversation, the timeline open, but being able to drill down to specific topics or subjects, like, I think hashtags would be ideal for that. So click on a lesson hashtag, and that'll bring up all the conversation about a particular lesson, and then they can just easily scoot back to the main conversation at any time.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. I appreciate that. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for popping on to say hello. Was there anything else while you were here?
Not at the moment. I'm going to have a little play with it. I've got the Infinity bundle, so I've just downloaded it. So I'm looking forward to having a little play and seeing how it goes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on live there, and appreciate the kind words. And if I accidentally kick you out, sometimes when I remove people, it kicks them out of the webinar. I apologize, but
that's fine. I've got to go home now. Anyway, I'm in the UK. It's late now.
Right on. Well, awesome. Thanks for calling in, Simon.
Yeah, nice webinar. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. All right. Does anybody else want to raise your hand and ask a question live or comment, have a discussion? Go ahead and raise your hand if you want to do that. Cool. Well, I'm looking for any last takers. Go ahead, Ellie.
We got a bunch of questions in the chat, Chris, that didn't make it over to the Q&A.
Can you feed them to me?
Yeah. So Ernest wanted to know if we could see a mobile view of the page.
Yes, let's check that out. So let me, I got a bunch of other stuff on my screen here. Let me move it out of the way. So just the basic responsiveness test, I'm gonna, squeeze this down and you can see how LifterLMS adapts. Let me get these out of the way. To a, any device size or viewport, if you will, as we say in the, web design community. We've got, tablet view right here, laptop view. You could explode this out on a giant Apple TV or whatever. So it's fully responsive. If anybody notices anything that's not perfect on the responsive front, just let us know and we'll address that. But thanks for the question.
Audra wanted to know if Gravatar will also pull her bio information over in addition to her picture.
It does not. It works with the you kind of have to basically write your own bio right here. This is where you would write your bio, and yeah, that's the answer on that one.
Will the timeline pull historical data for students who have already completed lessons and courses?
That is a good question. So the timeline does, just like any timeline, you can keep going back in time through the various pages and, the archives of history. It's going to depend on your settings here. On like if it's enrolled people only, then you will lose access to the timeline. But if anybody comes across anything in terms of like what users and privacy and like, what your best case scenario is, we really want to hear about that. So if it's not working exactly the way you want, I'd encourage you to post a feature request related to that, because that's a good it's a good issue in any social community. So thanks for the question.
Will there be notifications sent out when there's a post on someone's timeline?
That would be a future issue. I'd encourage people to just provide feedback on what you would like to see. LifterLMS already has a lot of pop-up notifications, email notifications. So whatever the ideal scenario is, it would be neat to hear. So I know Facebook has that little red bubble with a number in it or something like that, and we kind of have something similar on private areas when you have new private posts. So if something like that is of interest, just let us know.
Daryl would like to know if there's any way to turn on auto post on lesson completion.
Turn on auto post. That's a good question. I need to submit a ticket about that one. So submit a ticket on that, and we'll see if there's a way to do that. Right now the options are fairly limited. Like you can select that main privacy control. You can select your student page, your timeline page. You can enable Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. But it's always a balance with settings. At some point, some settings, there can be too many and it becomes hard to use the software, but we are always very interested in what are the critical settings that people need options around. So I appreciate that question.
I think that's it for the chat. I think the other ones we answered already. If I missed somebody's, please feel free to raise your hand or repost. And now we've got a couple more back over in the Q&A.
Cool. Let me jump over to that. So Gavin asks, any plans of having a push web tool pop up with members who just log in? I'm not sure what that means. Or in the back office reporting side, being able to see any students online. Oh, I see what you're saying. So with some social sites, there can be, you can be like aware, and this is common with like chat rooms and things like that, or in some forum software, you can be aware which members are online or which students or which learners. So I think that is an interesting feature request. Basically, it is the ability for students to be aware who else is online at the same time. That's a good one. That doesn't exist now, but if there was a way to be aware of which one of these people were currently on the website, therefore you might want to have a conversation with them on the timeline. That is an interesting feature request. So thank you for that.
Chris, Daryl would like to know if there's any way to moderate or delete posts.
We are working on that. That's moderation is at the top of our list for next, a newer, as the new versions roll out. So we will get to that. We know it's really important. The first stop on that train being, of course, the site owner being able to moderate. But there's, moderation, there's all kinds of variations off of that. So that is a top priority for us. So thanks for bringing that up.
That's all I see.
Awesome. Well, this is the last call for anybody else to raise your hand. And before we go, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'd also like to just again thank the LifterLMS team for everything you guys have all done to help bring this together, the community, everybody's feedback, more great feedback and comments coming in on this webinar. I really appreciate it. We're learning together, we're evolving together, and that's the spirit of this whole social learning add-on. And so in terms of if you're not in this yet and this looks interesting to you, I'd invite you to explore the LifterLMS private areas add-on or get access to it via the Infinity Bundle. The prices on those are going up tomorrow after the official launch party. And I do have a couple announcements before we sign off today. One of them is we need more people at our Twitter party tonight. Allie, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I have an announcement too. We're having a Twitter party, so if you guys are all on Twitter, you can find us at #LifterLMS. Chris and I will be there chatting with each other and with you guys, answering questions. We will be giving away a free LifterLMS t-shirt to one lucky winner. So I'm going to post the registration link in the chat window here in just 1 second. And if you pre-register, you'll be qualified to possibly win that t-shirt. So it's a great way to chat with us if you think of any other questions. I also wanted to mention, this might have been Chris's second announcement. Sorry if I'm taking away your thunder. But we did give away one free copy of LifterLMS Social Learning, a 1-year personal use license. And the winner of that giveaway was Manuel from Mexico. So congratulations if you're out there. And let me throw that link in the chat for everybody.
Awesome. Well, that was my second announcement. So I'm just going to do a new one on the spot, which is we are putting more stuff on Instagram. So if anybody, just wants to see a little bit more of the behind the scenes of LifterLMS and the people involved, find us on Instagram. But I want to thank everybody coming to this webinar presentation on the new social learning add-on for LifterLMS. For the people who are still here, Amy, Audra, Brad, Kurt, Dana, Daryl, David, Dev, Francois, Gavin, Graham, Ivan, Jeff, Jonathan, Maria, Mickey, Nassim, Robert, Ted, Tony, and Alvaro. Thank you all very much for coming. It's great to have you here on the call and be connected with you all. If there's anything we can do for you guys, if anybody kind of has questions about upgrading into the Infinity Bundle for something else, or can social learning do X kind of questions, kind of pre-sales questions, just head on over to the LifterLMS website. Down there at the bottom of the page is all our contact information and how to get a hold of us. If you are an existing Infinity Bundle customer or you're just using social learning or any of our add-ons and need anything, just head on over to your support, and we're standing by to help if you have any questions or things aren't quite working out as expected. We're happy to help as best we can. We take a lot of pride in our support, and we want to see you guys be successful and not have technology be a hurdle, but be something that is that supports you on your mission to teach others. So I'm going to stop streaming this to Facebook in just a moment, and bye everybody on Facebook. And that's it for the recording. I hope everybody has an awesome rest of the day. And if there's anything we can do for you and support you as you build courses and community, we are here for you on that mission. So thank you everyone for coming, and have a great rest of your day.